One of the most important lessons I learned many years ago came from a simple question. Why do some people's lives keep getting better while others seem to stay stuck? I used to think it was intelligence. Then I thought maybe it was opportunity. But after studying success for a long time, I discovered something interesting. Most people don't get what they want. They get what they're willing to put up with. Think about that. If you're willing to tolerate being broke, you'll stay broke longer than necessary. If you're willing to tolerate bad habits, they'll eventually become permanent habits. If you're willing to tolerate average performance, average becomes your address. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about perfection. None of us are perfect. I'm talking about standards, because everyday life asks you a question. What are you willing to accept? And how you answer that question shapes your future. You see, success is not just about what you pursue, it's also about what you refuse to tolerate. The law of toleration. To tolerate something is to accept its presence as normal when it should not be normal. It is to stop pushing back against something that deserves to be pushed back against. Now, I want to distinguish this from two things it is often confused with. The first is patience. Patience is a virtue. Patience is the willingness to wait for the right outcome while continuing to do the right work. A farmer is patient. He plants in spring and waits through summer without demanding the harvest arrive early. That is not tolerance. That is wisdom. That is understanding how seasons work. Tolerance is different. Tolerance is the farmer who plants in spring, watches weeds grow up around his crop through summer, and tells himself the weeds are part of the process. They are not. They are competing with his harvest. And his willingness to coexist with them is not patience. It is negligence with a comfortable name. The second thing tolerance is confused with is humility. Some men, good men, sincere men, mistake the lowering of their standards for an act of humility. They say, I am not going to demand too much. I am not going to think too highly of what I deserve. That sounds modest. It sounds, in a certain light, almost admirable. But humility is not the diminishment of what you are capable of. Humility is the honest assessment of who you are and what you are worth, and then working with full seriousness to honor that worth. A humble man is not a man who accepts less than he deserves. A humble man is a man who is too honest about his potential to waste it. What passes for humility in these cases is actually something closer to fear. The fear of appearing arrogant. The fear of reaching for something and failing publicly. The fear of holding a high standard and being held accountable to it. Now, what is the law I mentioned? The law of toleration is simply this. Whatever you consistently tolerate, you consistently signal is acceptable. And your life, your circumstances, your results, your environment, the quality of your relationships, the level of your income, the state of your health, will organize itself around what you have signaled is acceptable. Where you have been settling. The first area, what you tolerate in your financial life. I have met men who tell me with great sincerity that they want financial security. They want to provide well. They want the freedom that comes from having built something of real substance financially. And then I look at how they handle money on an ordinary Tuesday. The way they spend without accounting. The debts allowed to sit and accumulate interest because looking at them is unpleasant. The income that arrives and disappears before any of it is directed with intention. The plans made and unmade. The promises to themselves about money that are broken so regularly, they have stopped registering as broken. The man who builds financial stability is not always the man with the highest income. He is the man who refuses, at a fundamental level, not as a good intention but as a firm standard, to tolerate disorder in his financial life. He accounts for his money because he respects what money represents, the stored value of his time and effort. He would no more leave that value unattended than he would leave his front door open through the night. The second area, what you tolerate in your daily discipline. There is a small moment that occurs in the life of every man who has ever made a commitment to himself. It is the moment, on the morning after the commitment was made, when the alarm sounds and the commitment is tested for the first time. And in that moment, a choice is made. Not a dramatic choice, a quiet one. A choice about what is acceptable, about whether the standard set the night before is a real standard or a comfortable idea that felt right when the day was already ending and the cost of commitment was still theoretical. Most men, at least in the beginning, choose the comfortable idea. They reset the alarm. They tell themselves they will begin properly tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes the following day, and the following day becomes next week, and next week becomes some hazier season in the future when the circumstances are more cooperative. But here is what I want you to understand about discipline. Discipline is not the act of doing something difficult. Discipline is the act of not tolerating the version of yourself that avoids difficult things. It is the daily refusal to accept less from yourself than what you promised yourself you would be. When a man stops tolerating his own excuses, not in a harsh, self-punishing way, but in the clear-eyed, firm way of a man who has made a decision and means it, his discipline does not become effortful. It becomes identity. It becomes simply what he does, because it is consistent with who he has decided to be. The third area, what you tolerate in your relationships. I have watched men tolerate for years and decades relationships that drained them. Not because the people in those relationships were evil, most were not. But because the dynamic had been established early and that a certain standard of respect, reciprocity, and honest communication was not expected, was not required. And the relationship organized itself around that signal. The disrespect that was tolerated once became the disrespect that was offered again. The dishonesty that was overlooked once became the dishonesty that was repeated, not because the other person was deliberately malicious, but because the signal was clear, this is acceptable here, and they responded to the signal. So raise the standard early. Raise it kindly. Raise it with respect for the other person and genuine hope for the relationship. But raise it. Because what you tolerate in the people you spend your life with is what you teach them to offer you. The fourth area, what you tolerate in your self-talk. There's a conversation happening inside you every day, and it influences your life more than any conversation with the outside world. Most people tolerate self-talk they would never accept from another person. Low expectations, constant doubt, and quiet criticism. Day after day, it becomes the foundation of their self-image. Whatever you tolerate internally becomes the standard you live by. Stop accepting language that weakens you, not by pretending everything is fine, but by speaking to yourself the way a good mentor would, with honesty, belief, and high expectations, because the quality of your inner conversation will eventually become the quality of your life. The company you keep and the standards they set. I said many years ago, and I have seen no reason to revise this in all the years since, that you will become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. The people around you define, through their own daily lives and their own standards, what is normal, what is expected, what is acceptable. And normal is powerful. It is perhaps the most powerful force in human behavior, because we are social creatures, built through countless generations of living in groups, and the group's definition of normal is something we absorb without questioning it, without even being aware that we are absorbing it. If the people you spend your most important hours with tolerate financial disorder as normal, you will gradually begin to find financial disorder less alarming than it should be. If the people around you speak about their dreams in the past tense as things they once wanted but have quietly set aside, you will find, almost without noticing, that your own dreams begin to soften and recede. Conversely, if the people around you hold themselves to a high standard, if they are consistently disciplined, consistently honest, consistently working on improving the quality of what they bring to the world, your tolerance for your own mediocrity will erode. Now, let's be practical. You cannot choose everyone in your life. Family, co-workers, and certain obligations come with the territory. I'm not suggesting you remove everyone who doesn't meet your standards. What matters is the company you freely choose, the people you seek out, the conversations you enter, and the relationships you cultivate. In those choices, spend time with people whose standards are higher than yours in the areas where you want to grow. Their normal can become your new standard. Your tolerance level is shaped by your environment, and often the fastest way to raise your standards is to spend time with people who already live by them. Let the discomfort of higher standards challenge you. Let it become the engine of your growth. The cost of tolerating too long. The first cost of tolerating too long is what I call the cost of compounding. Small tolerations do not stay small, they compound. The small financial disorder tolerated at 25 compounds into significant financial constraint at 35. The small compromises in discipline tolerated in one season compound into deeply ingrained habits by the next. The small lowering of standards in a relationship tolerated once becomes the dynamic of the relationship by year 3. This is the cruel arithmetic of toleration. It does not add up linearly, it multiplies. And what starts as a small, manageable, barely noticeable variance from your standard, compounded over years, becomes the difference between the life you envisioned and the life you actually inhabit. The second cost is invisibility. Long-term toleration renders the tolerated thing invisible. You stop seeing it as a problem. You stop seeing it as something that needs to be addressed. It becomes simply the way things are. And the way things are, once it has been accepted at that level of normalcy, is almost impossible to dislodge through effort alone. Because you are no longer pushing against something you recognize as wrong. You are trying to move something you have accepted as simply the furniture of your life. This is why people who have tolerated certain circumstances for many years find it so difficult to change them. Not because they lack the capability, but because the recognition, the awareness that this is not acceptable, that this deserves to be different, has been steadily eroded by years of quiet permission. The third cost is the cost to your self-respect. A man who tolerates things he knows he should not tolerate knows it, even when he has grown accustomed to the circumstance, even when the recognition has become quiet and background. He knows. And that knowing, that persistent, low-level awareness that he is coexisting with something that is beneath his own standard, costs him something. It costs him the quiet confidence of a man who is living in alignment with his own values. It costs him the ease of movement that comes from knowing that the life around you reflects the standards within you. It creates a gap, not always visible, not always nameable, but always present, between who he is and who he has decided to be. And that gap is uncomfortable in a way that is hard to articulate, but impossible to ignore. Self-respect and standards are not separate things. They are the same thing. The man who holds high standards for what he accepts in his life holds himself in high regard, because he is demonstrating, through his daily choices, that his time and his energy and his potential are worth protecting. And the man who tolerates too much signals to himself as clearly as he signals to the world that he does not quite believe that is true. That is the deepest cost, and it is the one that is hardest to recover from, because low self-respect does not respond to effort alone, it responds to evidence. And the evidence it needs is the raised standard, the held line, the daily demonstration that you mean what you said about what you will and will not accept. Stop paying those costs. You have been paying them long enough. How to raise your standards and make them hold. Step 1. Identify what you've been tolerating. You cannot raise a standard until you clearly see where it has been lowered. Take an honest look at your finances, health, work, relationships, daily habits, and self-talk. Ask yourself, what has become normal that should not be normal? Write it down. Writing turns vague discomfort into something clear and actionable. Step 2. Make a declaration. After identifying what you've been tolerating, make a decision. Not a resolution, a declaration. A resolution hopes, a declaration decides. Be specific. Don't say, I will do better with money. Say, I will track every dollar I earn and spend. When a man keeps a declaration he made to himself, self-respect grows, one kept promise at a time. Step 3. Rebuild your environment. Most good intentions fail because the environment that created the old standard remains unchanged. Examine the people, habits, and routines that support the standard you want to leave behind, then deliberately create an environment that supports the new one. Spend time with people whose standards are higher than yours. Change the daily patterns that make lower standards easy. Make the better choice the easier choice. Step 4. Pass the first test. Most standards do not fail on major challenges. They fail on the first small test. The morning after the declaration, the moment the old habit invites you back. That first response matters. It tells you whether your decision was real. Hold the line, not perfectly, but consistently. Every kept commitment strengthens the standard. Every repeated choice turns it into identity. The man on the other side of a raised standard. What does a man look like after doing this work? Not perfect, not free from problems, but different. His finances are organized because he stopped tolerating disorder. His relationships are healthier because he became clear about what he would and would not accept. His disciplines no longer feel like constant battles because they have become habits. Most importantly, he trusts himself. He knows that when he gives himself his word, it means something. Not because he never struggles, but because he has built a track record of keeping promises to himself. That is real self-respect, not a feeling, a fact. And that man is available to anyone willing to stop tolerating what is beneath them and begin living by a higher standard. He is who you become when you finally decide and prove through your actions that you mean it. Many years ago, a good man asked me what I was tolerating that I knew I should not be. I have asked that question of myself every year since, not as a ritual, as a discipline, because the answer changes. Because life has a way of quietly slipping things under the door that you never consciously invited, and only the man who keeps asking the question notices them before they have had time to become permanent fixtures. Ask yourself the question now. What are you tolerating? In your financial life, in your daily discipline, in your relationships, in the conversation you have with yourself, that you know at some honest level does not belong there? What has been given permission to stay that never should have been given that permission? Name it. Write it down if you must. Make the declaration. Build the environment. Hold the first line. Not because life will suddenly become easy. It will not. But because you will become the kind of man for whom the difficulties of life do not require the additional burden of circumstances you chose to tolerate. You do not get what you want. You get what you are willing to accept. So raise what you accept. Raise it today, with full seriousness, with no exceptions and no negotiation. And then hold it, not until you feel like it, not until circumstances cooperate, but as the permanent, non-negotiable standard of the life you have decided to build.